Jeremy, jeremy.net. So, I am going through my monthly figure drawing purge. These are all the figure drawings I did during the month of August, so I'm clearing off my drawing board for September. So, let's dive right in. Now, at the start, I think, for those who haven't watched my channel before, I basically go through and I sort the drawings that I post on my blog for daily sketches versus the ones that I'm not going to show versus ones that are bad drawings, but I save them so I can do studies from them and learn why they're bad drawings. One of the things that I've been trying to balance and juggle is doing full figure versus doing a study of the upper body or lower body, because sometimes you're doing like a 5 or 8 minute pose, you don't have a chance to get in and really study some details. But it is important to understand the figure as a whole and understand how all the parts work together to make a complete unit. So what I've been doing is, unless we're specifically told to focus in the class on the full figure, whether we're specifically told to focus on a certain area, I'm trying to mentally rotate through. So I might do one pose where I study the full figure, one pose where I'll do the upper torso, one pose where I'll do the lower body. And I just made these notes to kind of remind myself to try and do that. I don't always stick to it, and there may be times when I decide for an entire class I'm going to do full figure because that's just what I'm choosing to focus on. But I try to give myself both the leeway to go off of that plan, but also a sense of structure in terms of how to pay attention to the things I'm trying to study. Oh, I think the only one I'll actually post is maybe the, you know what? I may actually post this whole page as is. They're not great, but I think that they're very simple in terms of just breaking down just how the fabric is wrapping around and describing the anatomy underneath. I should mention this is from a class on costume and the draped figure I'm taking at the Animation Guild. Let's see here. On this one, I like the sense of the pull that you're getting from the drapery, but it's such an unfinished drawing that I don't know if it would really be interesting to other people to look at. I do like the fold of it. This one feels a little bit more complete to me just in terms of like the fold of the skirts, but I don't feel like the way that the drapery is hanging from the waist is well described. You get the sense of it in the lower parts, but it feels a little mush-mouthed up in the upper parts closer to the hips. So yeah, I may not end up putting any of this page on. Let's see, I think these were some shorter poses, like some 5-minute poses. I think that the pose is great. The model did her job. She showed up. My part, in terms of actually capturing it, not so much. This one, in terms of what's going on with the sleeve and the fact that she's holding a sword, I think it would look more interesting if I'd actually really gotten the sword drawn in there. So it's just basically blocking out the hilt and not finishing the rest. So yeah, I don't think any of those will go either. But you know, these days I have like enough sketches saved up that I could go through an entire month and be like, I don't like any of these. I still have plenty more sketches to show over the next few months. Let's see. This one I actually like. Her torso is out of proportion. It feels like it's way too long. Although, you know, looking at it now, in theory, from the top of the head for pelvis is here to down the, yeah, it's still definitely too tall. She was wearing tall boots, but besides the point, it's still, she's a little too long in the leg and it's unrealistic. But this is one of those cases where I feel like the drawing itself is interesting and has a nice gesture and form to the whole thing. So I think I am going to put this one in, you know, misguided proportions or not. And I definitely like the feel of this one. I wish I'd actually had a chance to finish the hand that's in the foreground, because I like the nice contrapposto twisting of the waist. And again, this would have been nice if I'd gotten a little bit more of the sword in there. I've been thinking a lot lately about how to speed up as an artist, because I go slower in order to capture all the details and capture all the things that I'm trying to study and improve. these aren't speed drawings for the sake of speed. My point there is to become a better artist, and that definitely requires a lot of patience and taking your time and studying things. But I also feel like sometimes I'm definitely lollygagging and just taking too much time and not getting down to the essence. And I feel like if I could capture the essence faster, then I can capture more information and actually say, all right, I've got my basic structure down. I've got my anatomy and my proportion down. Now I can add in all these little details, get the subtleties of the drapery and how it's wrapping around the form. And, drops like the way that this fabric is dropping down from the hand that's holding it out. I like this one. Other than the fact that I rarely get a chance to draw the model's face because of time, this feels like one of the more complete, nicer drawings I've done in the class. So this one goes in the blog. Let's see here. This one, I think this was actually from my last batch of drawings, so you'll pardon me if you're seeing it again for a second time, but I know that in the last drawing purge I did, I definitely had pictures from this drawing set. However, I think I put some notes in here of fast versus slow, and actually, again, this is what I was just talking about in terms of paying attention to speed and trying to alternate between trying to draw poses very quickly and just be really loose and free and get as much in there, alternating between that and doing long, studious drawings where I pick one area, or if I have time to do the whole figure, do it, but do it with as much patience and attention as possible and really focus on getting all of the details and all the basic fundamentals drawn correctly, as opposed to just getting the whole figure down by whatever means necessary. And the idea of not saying one or the other, but to intentionally alternate between the two approaches and see if I can eventually sort of push them together, where I can be fairly detailed and proportioned, but also with more and more speed. So again, these are all approaches. I'm constantly experimenting. I look at the process of figure drawing, and I actually like the way those drawings I just showed you came out. I think I'll put that whole sheet in for the blog. Figure drawing's the laboratory. It's the place where you go to make bad drawings. You don't go there to make bad drawings intentionally, but you go there to learn why your drawings are bad, the things that you're doing that aren't coming out right, and you're there to analyze your work. It's why I harp on going to figure drawing classes so much. They have helped me develop as an artist to a tremendous degree, and I plan to continue going for the rest of my life. This one, just too wonky. I didn't get the sense of what the pelvis was even doing, and if you don't get the sense of what the pelvis is doing, you can't properly build that base that the figure is standing upon. So the legs really, even though there was a sense of one leg coming forward and then going back a little bit, this one didn't really do much at all. This drawing, however, I like. It's got a nice sense of elegance. Again, I was able to capture that twist in the waist. And even though you can't see the legs per se, you definitely get the sense of the, from this way the fabric drops down from the thigh down to the inside of her feet, where one shoe does peek out, and then getting the sense of it draping backwards. You get that feeling of that hidden leg that's back there supporting her, the back half of her body. So this one I like. This one I think is going to go in the blog. This one, no. This one, yes. Yes, because of the simplicity of the structure. It's not overly labored, but I was able to get in a lot of describing, this is what the little skirt that's coming down from her waist is doing. This is what the major long skirt, I don't know what the name is for a short skirt that's covering a longer skirt. I should probably ask my wife. But then, even though in here it gets a little bit muddy in terms of what the fabric is doing and how it should be laying on the ground, I don't feel like I got that correctly. But I did get this sense of it going back and twisting on itself. I think there was a shelf or something that was behind her that it was resting on. But getting that, the very simple forearm, holding the hat, it got down to the basic details without being overly labored. So I do like that fact. This one's in. Okay. This one's in. Again, simple, direct. It's tough when I like what the model is doing and I don't like my rendering of it. And I get that a lot. If anything, that's the recurring theme, is that we have great models that we work from. I have great respect for life drawing models, and they give us so much. They're coming out, they're giving us a performance for every time that we're working from them. They work so hard. And I always feel bad that when they do a great pose and I just don't quite... and I don't know why. It's almost like I intentionally tried to make a tangent between the cane that she's holding and her knee. That's absurd to me. I would normally just choose to push one forward or one back, and I would just adjust it. I have no idea why this is like that. This could have been a really great drawing, but that tangent's just driving me crazy. Maybe the tangent was there in real life and I was just drawing on autopilot and it didn't occur to me until later to fix it. This one, I think I actually do like this one. I like the interesting twist that's going on in the waist here. Let's see here. All right. What else? I think the rendering is interesting, but it's too wonky, too ill-defined in some places. So I don't think this one will go in. It could have been a good drawing, but I didn't pull it off. Didn't get the proportions right. Didn't get the pieces to sync up. This one, I like how it goes from descriptive to unfinished, then back to descriptive at the knee, then back to unfinished. These are 2-minute poses. They were going very fast, and I was just sort of like, once I got the main parts of the body in, just going in and saying, all right, let me get this piece, that piece, that piece, sort of jumping around. But there's something about that I feel, this unfinishedness that seems to work for me in this drawing. I think because it feels like it's generally in proportion, even with it being so unfinished in so many areas. The rest of the ones on that page, no go. Okay, I think I've got a couple of 2-minute poses here, and I will tell you, it's rare that I have a drawing in a 2-minute pose that feels even remotely worth posting. Sometimes really they're just rapid gesture drawings, and more often than not they're a mess, but it's good to do them because they teach me places where how much description I'm lacking at that stage of the pose, where I probably should have everything blocked in, at least in terms of the basics. There's nothing on this page, it's doing it for me. Same here. There's another one where the model was giving a great pose that I was like, wow, this would make a fantastic... I remember thinking in class, this would make a fantastic painting, and just not enough time. Let's see here. I guess there's just a couple of 2-minute poses. Now, back to another set. Let's see. This one, I like my approach to running the street clothes, but the proportions are all wonky. This model happens to be very thin and long-limbed, so that's always a challenge when you've got somebody who... You don't want to make them look like a really stick figure-ish looking model, because most of the models we have are very strong, and even if they're slender, they're muscled, much like a ballerina's type of figure. But sometimes I just get it where it ends up looking like, oh, they just look like stick figures. And I think that proportional sense didn't come off in this drawing. This one, I think, actually, out of all this page, this one, which there's nothing interesting about it, but this one I think came out the best in terms of proportion in relationship to the body type. Yeah, this one, too much hemming and hawing, much like I'm talking now. I'm not getting around to really directly describing just the details that are necessary. Let's see. As we go along, these are getting a little bit better. I think I might post this one. The way that her torso is going into the pelvis, that piece of fabric that's wrapping around, I know what I was trying to do, which was trying to convey that this is the area where her body is bending and twisting from the direction her upper torso is facing to her pelvis is facing, but that bothers me. I'm still going to post this drawing. I actually think it's an interesting drawing. I like the way the fabric is coming off of the shoulders. The rest of it's interesting, but I'm noting this because the whole point of this is to pay attention to things that I'm doing wrong and learn from them. In fact, I actually like the way that I rendered the fabric on a lot of these. Again, this is another one where her torso is too thin, even though it's a near profile shot, there was more of the back that was visible, and this is just too skinny. And this one I'm definitely going to post because I really like the way that I got the fact that you could actually you couldn't see her shoulder blade, but the fabric was wrapping around in kind of parallels to her shoulder blade and her shoulder, and it did a great job of describing that shoulder anatomy, which is difficult enough to describe in a nude figure, but getting it in a clothed figure, I was like, huh. So I'm always trying to think about that. I mean, this feels sort of half-assy in terms of like her thigh. I don't think that came out very well, but I like this enough that I feel like it's worth posting. There's interesting stuff in the drawings. And that's the thing, even with a bad drawing, there's stuff worth showing. And even in a drawing that's pretty good, there's always room for improvement. The difference being is that if that was something that was going to be done as a final illustration, then I would sit there and rework it and fix all the things that weren't working in the piece. And this is another one where I did a drawing. Let me slide this down a little bit. Did the drawing in the class from the model, realized how wonky it was, how many things weren't working, and then came back and did another study during class. I think while the model was on a break, really trying to get the sense of both the pelvis and then the upper torso leaning forward, the arm coming up. I still didn't get the sense of it pressing and her chin really resting on it. So that's still, even with this study, still didn't get a lot of details going back and doing it. But then there's a lot of overlap in this piece because you've got pelvis coming back, torso coming forward, arm in front of one arm folded on top of the torso, another arm folded on top of that arm, arm resting on the leg that's coming up forward, and then from the knee going slightly back again and down. There was a lot going on in this piece in terms of the volumes, the direction that all the volumes were moving. That was challenging. So it was an interesting piece, and I made a little note to myself to don't make subtle details jump out, meaning to try and pay more attention to and bring out the major details, and to not sit there and belabor. Sometimes there's a subtle detail, a fold or wrinkle or a hand that just doesn't look right. And you'll sit there and you'll work on it, trying to improve it and fix it. And you may fix it, but in the act of spending so much time drawing on it, you've added a lot of detail now, and this thing that was really insignificant jumps out in the piece. And it's almost better to leave it broken but not distinct than to really render something that doesn't really matter in the piece, because that also throws off the balance of interest and detail. So I probably know better, but just off camera is one of our kitties, Khaleesi. Well, you know, camera shy. Normally she likes to jump on the drawing board while I'm drawing. She actually does that when I'm doing drawing videos a lot. But she's actually sitting here watching me go over these drawings, and I think she's watching me thinking I want to jump on the drawing board, because she does it a lot of times. She likes to jump on my my drawing table, sometimes while I'm working, or sometimes if she sees me like recording a video, she's just like, what's going on there? Wants to climb up. So that was Khaleesi. And let's see, out of this page, these are cases where these might be worth saving to do studies from, because it's an attempt to describe, but they're not particularly good drawings. They're more diagrammatic, and they're poor diagrams. I don't think they really capture what the fabric is doing, even though I was trying to pay attention to that. You try, you fail, you try again. That's the nature. I'd say out of this page, this one's the only one that's blog worthy, so post that one. The rest I may save and redraw. Let's see here. Not horrible, but super unfinished. So that's out. Same with this one. This one I think is worth posting. I'm not going to go back and do it, but in a world where I had a little bit more time, I might have spent a little bit more time rendering this particular fold better, because it feels like this fold is the area of detail, and how this fold how this area where it wraps around from the transition from one knee to the other knee that's hidden behind it to the actual calf and lower leg coming out from behind the bottom leg. It feels like this is sort of the area where you want the most detail. The rest of it you can kind of push back. So I will post this one. There's things about that I would probably refine a little bit more line work right in this area to draw the eye in. Okay. And this one. Yeah, I'll keep this. The costume was very simple. They were like very like loose pantaloons, you know, very bloomery. You know, it's a kind of challenge to block out. I mean, you can figure out where the knee would be, but when they're large, flowy pants and they kind of hide some of the joints, you just have to go for the big shapes, which is beneficial, although it can be challenging. Let's see here. So there's some 6-minute poses. I've been trying to remember to make notes on there of how long the poses are, because I think that that might actually be of interest to you, where you see some drawings that look a little bit more detailed and finished. You're like, oh, hey, wow, I guess he can draw. It's like, nah, that just happened to be like a 12-minute or 15-minute pose, and I can get a lot more done in longer poses. Whereas, also, I guess to kind of cover my back and make me not feel as bad when I have really crappy ones that I'm showing you that are like 2-minute or 5-minute poses. It's almost like I'm trying to use that as an excuse for why it's a bad drawing. But that's not really fair, because you can do a good gesture in 2 minutes. I just need to work at it. This one, interesting detail, but I don't think I really conveyed the sense of the anatomy underneath the folds, and it was a little bit too repetitive in terms of the folds being the same distance spaced apart, so I will not post it. Let's see. And the fact that I had to turn this one to the side to even figure out what it was, I couldn't even figure out for a second that this is the lower torso. You know, this is the leg going down, one leg moving forward, then bent so that the foot is pressing back against the thigh. The fact that I couldn't even tell what this was for a second should tell you that it's not going in the blog. Let's see here. This one, again, really bad proportions, but yeah, too long. Too long by maybe half a head. Yeah, too long, but I'm gonna post it anyway because I like what's going on with the fabric. It also threw me a lot that it was sort of high-waisted, and I don't think I conveyed that properly. Her head might actually be a little bit too small for this piece. In fact, honestly, now that I look at this, and I'm even seeing my sizing for the head, as opposed to her being too long, it might simply be that I just need to make her head a little bit larger to fit this size, and I don't know, maybe raise it, not just make it bigger, but raise her shoulders up a little bit. Yeah. I could have fixed this if I had been paying more attention in class. Attention plays a big part in this, because it's just being aware enough and awake enough that you're not just drawing on autopilot, but actually saying, what needs to be changed? What can I fix? How can this be better? What should this be? What am I trying to say? And that's a lot to balance in your head at once while you're drawing. But that's the goal. The goal is to try doing that over and over and over again and hopefully get better at it. These were some 5 and 6 minute poses. They're not bad in terms of gestures, loose sketches, but I don't necessarily think they're blog worthy. This one is actually not bad. I think I'll post this one. The top one is just, I don't even know what I was thinking. That's like I wasn't even trying. Let's see. Another one that is indistinct and unfinished. No go. This is, as I had mentioned earlier, trying to pay attention doing some drawings where I'm focusing on the upper torso versus lower torso. I think for both of these, I was analytical but not descriptive, meaning I was trying to catalog a lot of detail, but I didn't properly place it and clarify it and make the fabric feel as separate from the flesh that's coming out as it should be. the hands are, you can barely even tell that there's hands in here. They're kind of like just a lumpy mitten. Yeah, I don't think this page is going in, and it's a victim of indecision, lack of being properly descriptive and concise. That's the problem. You got to learn how to be concise, meaning to say exactly what you want to say, but in as few lines as possible, but the right lines. Now, it's not the same as minimalist. It just means summing everything up accurately, but briefly. Let's see here. Yeah. Again, model gave us great stuff to work with. I didn't nail it. That one's out. I like this sleeve and what's going on there. I like this body. I'm getting better at describing folds with tone instead of line, at least in this drawing. Yeah, maybe this bottom one will go in. Let's see what else. Sometimes there's ones that in the videos that I say I'm not going to post and I end up posting it anyway because there's something I like, and then there's ones I say I'm going to post and then I end up looking at it weeks later, and maybe I'm looking at it the day I'm actually about to post it on the blog and say, what was I thinking? This is horrible. Good study of the fold in this arm. That said, not post worthy. Had some more time with this because I normally never draw this large in class unless I've got a lot of time, unless we're doing like a 10 or a 15-minute pose. But still, you know, sometimes having more time doesn't make it a better drawing. Let's see here. Oof, way out of proportion. You can't even really tell what he's doing. I mean, you can tell what his body poses, but there's no story to it. Let's see here. A drunk giving a sip of alcohol to a mouse. I remember the model taking that pose, and it was very entertaining. But that said, I don't think it's a great drawing. This one works a little bit more. It's got a little bit more of a drunken, schlubby kingpin look. I think, yeah, this one will go in the blog. Some 3-minute poses. Not in love with any of these. Same with this one. Now this one I'm going to post, and this is what I would figure for a 3-minute pose is what I should be able to get away with. Even if I don't get the face or the hair, which ideally I would like to have enough time to get some suggestion of that, but being able to get the whole figure, a sense of how the fabric is wrapping around the different forms, a sense of the joints and the direction the body and the limbs are moving, a simple prop in there in the case where he's holding a bottle this time. Like, that's what I should hope that I can get down in a 3-minute pose. It's something kind of like this. And there we go. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy these videos, please like and share them. Don't forget to click the subscribe button. You can sign up for my weekly newsletter to get a free digital comic at newsletter.jeremy.net. That's newsletter.gerimi.net. Also, visit my main website, jeremy.net, where you can buy my comic books, art prints, and more. There's also links to my Instagram, Twitter, and other social media accounts. That's it for now. Go be creative.